Have you ever had a moment where life felt strangely out of sync, where everything looked the same, but you felt like you didn't belong in the same way anymore? That's the first whisper of awakening. It often begins as an inner restlessness, a sense that there is more to life than routines, work, money, and survival. You may start feeling a pull, almost like an invisible hand nudging you toward something beyond the ordinary. This is what many spiritual teachers call the call. The call doesn't arrive the same way for everyone. For some, it begins with tragedy, a loss, a breakup, or an illness that forces them to question the meaning of life. For others, it may come in a quieter way, perhaps through a book that unexpectedly touches the soul, a dream that feels more real than waking life, or a moment in nature where you suddenly feel connected to everything. However it begins, the common thread is this: you can't go back to being the same person you were before. This shift often makes you feel like you're outgrowing the old version of yourself. The conversations you once enjoyed may feel shallow. The goals you once chased may no longer excite you. And people around you might notice, saying things like, "You've changed." Without realizing that's exactly what's happening, you're changing because you're awakening. This can be unsettling, but it's also the first unmistakable sign that your consciousness is expanding. Think of it like a seed that begins to crack open. On the outside, it might look like the seed is breaking apart, but inside, life is sprouting. That's you. The old shell is breaking because something new and alive is trying to emerge. You may not fully understand it yet, but your soul recognizes it. This is why you're here, listening, searching, and feeling pulled to messages like this. So let me ask you, have you felt this inner calling? Have you noticed that quiet sense of there must be more tugging at you? If so, drop a comment below, because your story matters and someone else might need to hear it to realize they aren't alone. When awakening begins, emotions often surge like tidal waves. You may cry without knowing why, feel deep sadness out of nowhere, or suddenly burst into joy as if a hidden wellspring has opened. At first, this can be confusing, even frightening. But what's really happening is that your soul is cleansing itself. Old wounds, repressed feelings, and hidden pains rise to the surface so they can finally be healed. Many people mistake this for becoming unstable, but the truth is this is sacred work. Imagine a river that has been blocked for years. When the dam breaks, the water rushes out powerfully, sometimes chaotically, before it finds its natural flow again. Your emotions are doing the same. They are flushing out what you've been carrying silently for years. That's not weakness. That's transformation. Awakening shakes the foundations of who you think you are. Suddenly, the labels you've carried your whole life, employee, parent, student, successful, failure, friend, enemy, start to feel like costumes you no longer fit into. You may catch yourself thinking, if I'm not these roles, then who am I? That question is not a crisis, it's a doorway. Think about how much of your life has been shaped by what society, family, or culture told you to be. Many people live decades wearing masks: the good child, the hard worker, the popular one, or the quiet one. Awakening tears through these masks. You realize you are not your job, not your achievements, not your mistakes. You are something far deeper, something eternal. One of the clearest signs of awakening is that your intuition, that quiet inner knowing, begins to speak louder. You may find yourself making decisions based not on logic alone, but on a deep inner sense that this is right or this doesn't feel aligned. At first, this can feel unsettling because we're trained to trust facts, evidence, and external opinions. But awakening flips that script. Suddenly, you realize that your inner voice has always been guiding you, and now you're finally listening. Think back to times when you ignored your gut instinct and regretted it later. Maybe you had a feeling not to trust someone, but you brushed it aside, only to be betrayed. Or maybe you felt pulled toward a certain path but let fear stop you. Awakening sharpens that inner compass so much that it becomes undeniable. It's like the static clears, and you can hear your soul more clearly than ever before. Some people describe this as having downloads or flashes of insight. You may wake up from a dream with a clear direction. You may suddenly know when to call someone, only to find out they needed you at that exact moment. These aren't coincidences. They're glimpses of your intuitive self-awakening, showing you that your mind is not the only source of wisdom, your soul is. Another unmistakable sign of awakening is the appearance of synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that seem too perfectly timed to be random. Maybe you think about an old friend and they call you within hours. Maybe you keep seeing repeating numbers like 11, 11, 222, or 444 everywhere you go. Or maybe certain songs, symbols, or animals keep showing up in your life right when you need a message. Awakening tunes your awareness to these signs. Before, you might have dismissed them as chance, but now you see the universe speaking through them. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, when events align in meaningful ways, reflecting your inner world. It's as if life itself is confirming that you are on the right path, guiding you with whispers and winks. One of the most challenging, yet liberating aspects of awakening is the growing distance you feel from old habits, routines, and sometimes even people. Activities that once brought comfort may suddenly feel empty. Friendships built on gossip, partying, or negativity may no longer satisfy your soul. You might even feel out of place in settings where you used to feel at home. This disconnection can be painful, but it's a sign of growth. Think of it like shedding old skin. A snake can't stay in the same skin forever. It has to release what no longer fits in order to expand. Similarly, as your consciousness grows, old versions of yourself no longer align. You may find yourself drinking less, spending less time in toxic environments, or feeling drained around people who don't share your values anymore. This isn't you becoming boring, it's you evolving. This stage often comes with loneliness. You may wonder, why don't I connect with people the way I used to? Am I losing my friends? But remember, not everyone is meant to walk with you on every stage of your journey. Some people are chapters, not the whole book. Awakening makes you more selective about who and what gets access to your energy, and that's not arrogance, it's wisdom. Spiritual awakening isn't just about gaining insight, it's also about losing. Losing old beliefs, losing attachments, and sometimes even losing people. This process can feel brutal because the things you once clung to for safety are stripped away. Jobs that gave you status, relationships that defined you, routines that made you feel secure, suddenly, they no longer fit. It feels like the ground beneath you is cracking open. Think of it like a tree in autumn. The leaves that once gave it beauty must fall away. To the outside eye, it looks like loss, but the tree knows that letting go makes space for new growth in spring. Your awakening works the same way. You may cry over what's leaving, but deep down, your soul knows it's making room for something greater. This shedding often triggers resistance. The human ego clings desperately to the familiar, even when it hurts. You may hear your mind whisper, but what if I need this? What if I never find better? That fear is natural, but remember, awakening is not about comfort, it's about truth. And the truth is, you can't step into your higher self while holding onto what belongs to your past self. Another unmistakable sign of awakening is the insatiable hunger for truth. Suddenly, small talk feels hollow. Entertainment that once distracted you no longer satisfies. Instead, you crave depth, books about philosophy, spirituality, psychology, conversations that explore meaning and purpose, moments of silence where you can hear your own soul. This hunger is not random, it's your spirit demanding nourishment. Before awakening, most people are content with surface-level living. Work, money, possessions, and social approval are enough to keep them distracted. But when you awaken, it feels like none of that is enough anymore. You want to know why you are here, what your purpose is, what lies beyond death, and what reality really means. These questions can feel overwhelming, but they are sacred. They are the doorway to higher understanding. One of the most surprising and sometimes overwhelming signs of awakening is heightened sensitivity. Suddenly, you notice the energy in a room. Crowded places may feel heavy or draining. Being around negative people might leave you exhausted. On the other hand, time spent in nature or with uplifting people fills you with peace. This isn't your imagination, it's your awareness sharpening. Before awakening, you may have brushed off these feelings. You might have thought, I'm just being moody. But now you realize you're actually perceiving energy. Science tells us everything is vibration, and awakening tunes you into that frequency. You begin to sense when someone is lying, when a place carries old emotional residue, or when an environment is nourishing to your soul. At first, this sensitivity can feel like a curse. You may avoid parties, noisy places, or certain people without knowing why. But over time, you learn that it's actually a gift. Your soul is teaching you discernment. You're learning to protect your energy, to surround yourself with what uplifts you instead of what drains you. This is self-care at the spiritual level. When you're truly awakening, one of the most shocking experiences is the collapse of illusions. Suddenly, the things you once believed without question begin to crumble. You may realize that the career you were told would bring happiness only brings emptiness. You may see through the social masks people wear. You may even begin questioning the narrative society has fed you since childhood. This collapse can feel like betrayal, like the rug has been pulled from under your feet. But here, the truth. Illusions must collapse before truth can be revealed. Awakening doesn't just give you new knowledge, it tears down everything false so you can see clearly. That's why so many describe this stage as painful. Imagine wearing glasses your whole life that distorted reality, and one day someone takes them off. At first, the light hurts your eyes, but gradually you begin to see the world as it really is, raw, unfiltered, authentic. Another unmistakable sign of awakening is the expansion of compassion. You begin to feel connected not only to those close to you, but to strangers, animals, and even the planet itself. Suffering that once seemed distant now touches your heart deeply. You may find yourself moved to tears by stories of injustice or feeling a responsibility to care for nature. This isn't weakness, it's the blossoming of your higher self. Before awakening, compassion is often selective. We care about our circle, our tribe, our family. But awakening dissolves those boundaries. You begin to realize that the same life force within you flows through everyone else. That realization awakens a love that is less about romance or attachment and more about unity. It's the kind of love mystics spoke of, a love that sees God in everything. No conversation about awakening is complete without mentioning the dark night of the soul. This stage is perhaps the most difficult, yet also the most transformative. It's when everything feels like it's falling apart: your faith, your identity, your sense of meaning. You may feel abandoned, hopeless, even broken. But in truth, this is the night before dawn. It's the breaking that makes rebuilding possible. The dark night can be triggered by loss, trauma, or simply the weight of awakening itself. Suddenly, the things that once gave you comfort don't work anymore. Prayer feels empty. Meditation feels silent. Life feels void of meaning. Many mistake this for depression, and in some ways it feels similar. But the difference is that the dark night is not the end, it's a passage. It's the stripping away of everything false so that only truth remains. When awakening unfolds, your dream life often becomes more vivid, symbolic, and intense. You may start to experience recurring dreams, prophetic visions, or symbols that feel deeply meaningful even if you don't fully understand them. This is because your subconscious mind, which has always been a gateway to your higher self, becomes more active and clear during awakening. Your soul is speaking to you in the language of symbols. Some people begin having dreams of flying, of being chased, or of stepping into unknown doors. These are not random images. They are reflections of your inner journey. Flying often represents liberation. Being chased can symbolize the fears you're trying to escape, and stepping into doors often means entering new phases of life. Awakening heightens your sensitivity to these patterns, and suddenly, you realize that your dreams are guiding you. It's not only at night either. During waking hours, you may start to notice recurring symbols, feathers, animals, numbers, or even words that seem to follow you. To the unawakened mind, this is coincidence. But to you, it becomes clear that your subconscious and the universe are weaving together to deliver messages. Awakening opens your perception to this deeper dialogue. Another remarkable sign of awakening is the shifting experience of time. What once felt linear begins to blur. You may lose track of time when you're deeply present. Days might feel both long and short at once. You might even experience déjà vu more often, as if the past and future are folding into the present moment. This isn't just your imagination. Awakening alters your relationship with time. From childhood, we're taught to see time as a straight line, past behind us, future ahead, present in the middle. But awakening reveals that time is more fluid, more circular. You begin to notice how memories from the past rise up not to haunt you, but to be healed. You may also sense future possibilities as if they are already happening in another dimension. It's like living in a constant dance of past, present, and future all at once. One of the most comforting signs of awakening is the awareness that you are not alone. You may begin to feel a presence around you, not in a fearful way, but in a supportive, loving way. Some describe it as guardian angels, spirit guides, ancestors, or simply the presence of God. Whatever language you use, the feeling is unmistakable. There is guidance surrounding you, and it makes itself known when you need it most. This presence often shows up subtly. A song plays on the radio at the exact moment you need encouragement. A stranger says something that answers the question on your heart. Or you may feel a sudden warmth or tingling when you pray or meditate, as if unseen hands are reminding you, you are guided, you are held. Awakening makes you sensitive enough to notice these moments of divine intervention. As you awaken, you'll notice a deep craving for stillness. Where once you thrived on constant noise, stimulation, or distraction, now silence feels like medicine. The TV blasting, endless scrolling, and crowded social spaces may suddenly feel exhausting to your spirit. Instead, you find peace in quiet moments, sitting in nature, listening to your breath, or simply being alone with your thoughts. This craving for stillness isn't about rejecting the world, it's about rediscovering yourself. Awakening stirs the awareness that your true power comes from within, not from endless external noise. You begin to notice that every time you give yourself permission to be still, your soul speaks louder. Insights, creativity, and clarity emerge not from doing more, but from being present. One of the most undeniable parts of awakening is the tension between your ego and your spirit. The ego wants to cling to control, recognition, and old habits. The spirit wants to surrender, expand, and align with higher truth. This tug-of-war can feel like an internal storm, leaving you confused, conflicted, and even doubting yourself. But this battle is proof of your awakening. The ego's voice often shows up as fear, pride, or defensiveness. It might whisper, "What if I fail? What will people think? I need to protect myself." The spirit, on the other hand, speaks softly with courage and love. "Trust. Let go. You are more than this." During awakening, you begin to notice these two voices more clearly, and the choice of which to follow becomes your daily challenge. Another unmistakable sign of awakening is catching glimpses of higher consciousness. These moments often come unexpectedly, during meditation in nature, or even while doing something simple like washing dishes. Suddenly, you feel expanded beyond your body, as if you are both the observer and the observed. Time fades, and all that exists is oneness. These glimpses may last seconds or minutes, but they leave a lasting imprint. You might feel overwhelming love for everything around you, as if every tree, every stranger, every breath is a part of you. Or you may experience pure clarity, where every worry vanishes and you sense life's deeper perfection. Even though the moment fades, its memory changes how you see the world. Science has begun to study these states too, calling them peak experiences or altered states of consciousness. Psychologists like Abraham Maslow describe them as moments of self-transcendence, where human beings taste their highest potential. Spiritual traditions, meanwhile, have long known them as glimpses of enlightenment. Whatever you call them, they are markers of awakening. As awakening unfolds, you begin to sense that your life is meant for more than survival, routine, or chasing material success. Deep down, you feel a calling not necessarily to something glamorous or grand, but to something meaningful. It may be to heal, to teach, to create, to serve, or to live in greater authenticity. This calling doesn't come from ego ambition. It comes from the soul whispering, "You are here for this." The calling often begins as restlessness. What once satisfied you now feels empty. The job you worked hard for, the lifestyle you thought would bring happiness, suddenly, they don't fulfill you anymore. Instead, there's a quiet inner nudge pushing you to ask, what am I really here to do? Awakening strips away distractions so you can finally hear this question clearly. The final and perhaps clearest sign of true awakening is acceptance. After the storms, the searching, the questions, and the inner battles, you begin to arrive at a place of peace. Not the shallow peace of avoiding conflict, but the deep peace of surrendering to life as it is. You stop needing everything to make sense. You stop fighting what you cannot control. You begin to trust the unfolding. This peace is not passive. It doesn't mean giving up or doing nothing. It means flowing with life instead of resisting it. You understand that challenges are not punishments but teachers. You see that loss can lead to deeper love, and endings can open the door to new beginnings. Peace comes not from having a perfect life, but from realizing perfection was never the goal. Integration is key here. Awakening isn't about escaping the world, it's about living more fully in it with compassion, awareness, and authenticity. You return to ordinary life but with extraordinary vision. Washing dishes, raising children, or going to work, these become sacred acts because you carry presence into them. The awakening doesn't remove you from life. It transforms how you live it. This stage often feels quieter than the dramatic beginnings of awakening, but it is the most powerful. It's the fruit of everything you've been through, the breakdowns, the breakthroughs, the confusion, and the clarity. Acceptance is the crown of awakening, where you finally rest in the truth of who you are, eternal, connected, and free. So I'll leave you with this. Have you felt that shift into peace, even after turmoil? Do you sense yourself moving from seeking to simply being? Let me know in the comments. And remember to subscribe to Mirror of the Soul for more content that honors your sacred path.